for my two questions, the first one is because you guys are practicing at such a fast tempo, because there are so many passing reps on offense, what can that do for a defensive line to get ready for the regular season without obviously having the preseason games as sort of a baseline? And then secondly, you've got a couple days now to see Taco within the mix of the defensive line. Just what have you noticed so far, and what are you maybe looking towards next as you get ready for his sort of debut with the Chiefs?
So to your first question, I love the way that we practice in terms of getting long drives and consecutive reps. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of throws in there as well. The conditioning element, the pursuit element, the progression in terms of getting ready to play a game is excellent in my opinion. And it forces guys to develop that. Listen, you can go and run gassers and sprints and all those type of things all you want. It's great conditioning, but there's nothing like playing football and the starting and the stopping and the leaning on each other and the driving and the change of direction. It's excellent. It's invaluable. You can't get better at it unless you do it. So I love the way we practice from that standpoint. Relative to Taco, been really pleased with him so far. It's been fun to get hands-on with him. Obviously the off-season program when we got him, very unique situation. You can only know someone so much through a computer screen, if you will. But it's been fun to be able to watch him. He's a very good athlete. He's got great length. He's got some natural ability. He's picking things up. He's making some mistakes, but he's working through it. I've liked his energy, his attitude, and his effort, and he's coming along.
Let's go to Vahe. Go ahead, Vahe.
Thanks, Brad. Hey, Brendan. To your point, you just mentioned about you can only get to know someone so much through a computer screen. You've had the benefit of being in having some continuity with the Patriots and now here. I wonder how much that benefits you now in the last year or so, and just overall, have you seen that is a big difference maker with coaching staffs?
Well, I think there's a common ground. I think, in terms of language, in terms of the amount of time you have to spend meeting to get on the same page with things probably is minimized. The reality of it is, though, you have to go through this process each and every year. Even when you've been together for a while, none of us have coached football since February. None of us have been on the practice field since February. So, there was some rust, to be quite honest, when you get back going. For players and coaches, we've all got to go through it. And that's something that we continue to work through. We're going to go through the preseason without the opportunity to go on the field for a preseason game. And so some of the in-game mechanics we're trying to work through on the practice field and get our feet up underneath of us in that regard, because we're not going to have an opportunity to do it in those preseason games like you normally would. So I think every year brings its challenges. Yeah, personalities, you kind of have some common threads, but by the same token, we all need it. We all need to sharpen our skills and get back into our routine.
Let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi, Brendan. Thank you for taking the time. I have one rookie and one veteran question. What has surprised you most now that you've gotten an opportunity to work with Mike Dana? And then what has told the staff maybe Tano is ready for the next step in the system?
I'll take them in the order you gave me. So, Mike has done a really nice job, did a great job through our off-season stuff. And I was very impressed with the way he came to camp and the level of understanding with the material that we had gone through over the off-season program. He had a very good recall on that. Been impressed with his work ethic. He's getting better every day. He's been fun to be around for sure. Relative to Tano, very pleased with where he's at from a conditioning standpoint, from the way he approached the off-season work. And he's a physical specimen in a lot of ways, but he's in excellent physical conditioning. When you look at the guys who can go all day out there, he's, one of the first guys that comes to mind. And that's a credit to what he's done and what he did on his own in the time that he wasn't able to be here. I'm excited to see him perform. He's doing a nice job at this point. We're still early in the evaluation phase of this, but I see him getting better. I see him, starting to understand the game. It's slowing down a little bit for him. So I've got great expectations, and I hope that he continues to progress.
Let's go to Seren Petra. Go ahead, Seren.
Coach, thank you for your time. Along the same lines, you talked about Tano being in great shape. Breeland Speaks has talked about, the work he put in and going back to, it sounded like his junior high coach to get back working. He made the switch last year. Things, by all accounts, were going well, but then he missed the whole year. So what was his weight loss? Was that his motivation? Was that something the organization, you, Coach Reed, Spags said, hey, we want you to change your body type? And then what is your vision for him? Is, because a lot of people thought maybe he was a D tackle and D end in college, of course, played linebacker here. So what is the vision for what he is? And if you have the number, how much weight did he lose?
Well, it's a great question. And I'd say we're still working through that. Breeland did a tremendous job in terms of working through the off season. He got himself into great physical shape. I got to give him a lot of credit for what he did and the work that he put in. We'll see. He's played, as you guys know, he's played defensive tackle. He's played outside linebacker. He's played defensive end. We're going to evaluate guys and their skill set. And when they prove that they're capable of doing things well, our job as coaches is to put them in position to do those things. And the things that they don't do as well, good coaching would tell you, okay, well, let's minimize the number of times we ask them to do that. So with Breeland specifically, he's worked at a number of different spots here as we've gotten back. That's one of the things I give him a lot of credit for. He's a football smart guy. He can handle multiple roles. He does a very good job of working at that side of things. We're still, like I mentioned, with all of these guys in an evaluation mode at this point in training camp. We've been, I don't know what it is, 4 or 5 days in pads. But I wouldn't say that sample size is big enough to make defining, positions and roles and things of that nature yet. We're still working through that, and he's done a nice job with the things that we've asked him to do. We'll see where it continues to go.
Looks like we've got time for 2 more questions. Let's go Vahe and then finish with Herbie. Go ahead, Vahe.
Glad Herbie's got the final one here. Hey, Brendan, sort of similar question before, but more specific to the coaches you're working with, Andy and Spags. How different is it this time around? I mean, how much more grounded are you? And again, what's the advantage in having all 3 coordinators are back, which is rare for a Super Bowl winning team?
Well, you're right. It is. And there's some familiarity, obviously, I know where to go when we go out to individual this year, as opposed to trying to figure it out last year, but you understand certain things and expectations that the head coach wants. And each head coach I've worked for is different in that regard. When you've been a lap around the track, so to speak, what are the things that, listen, this is what he wants. He doesn't need to ask me to handle that again. I understand what his expectations are. And so you feel comfortable and confident in taking some of those things on your own and off of him, to be honest. As an assistant coach, I've always looked at it as my responsibility to get out in front of any issues before the head coach has to deal with them. And so when you know their expectations and you know what they want, you can handle those things more appropriately. And I'd say that's kind of where we're at. I'd say the same thing with Spags. We've all worked together now for a year. We've got a little bit of, time on the job to where we can, avoid problems in a proactive manner before they become problems, if you will.
Let's go to Herbie to finish it off. Go ahead, Herbie.
Hey, Coach, I want to tap back into your time in New England. With the Patriots, you were in the same building and you got to be around a guy in Tom Brady who is widely regarded as the face of the NFL. With that torch now being passed over to Patrick Mahomes, I'm curious, what similarities did you see in how Brady handled the spotlight and that responsibility of being the face of the NFL to how Patrick is handling it now?
Well, I'll say this. I've been honored and privileged, to be honest with you, to work with both individuals. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for both individuals. But I think they're individuals, and I'm not much into comparisons. I think they're both great players. I think they have a lot of similar characteristics. The one thing that would stand out to me is their competitive fire and the way they approach the game and the way that they bring energy each and every day to their teammates. but I got a tremendous amount of respect, and I'm happy and fortunate to have an opportunity to share the same field and be on the same team with them.